अरे 7 बजे लेक्चर है। ये शिट शिट।
कर सकते हो। Hey everyone, Deepak here. I think let's wait for 4 or 5 more minutes so that everyone can join, and then we'll start at around 7:05. Okay. By the way, Yash, are you here? You have joined?
या देखा।
हाँ
Hi Yash.
ठीक।
करिए मतलब वी वांट टू मेक इट वेरी कैंडिड वेरी अनफिल्टर्ड। आप जितनी आसान भाषा में बात करें, दिस इज फॉर एनीबडी हु इज अ 20-year-old वाचिंग, मे बी मैक्सिमम लोग आई एम श्योर विल बी अ सीए एस्पिरेंट जो या तो फाउंडेशन में होगा या इंटर में होगा या फाइनल में होगा, इरिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ द लेवल। एंड वी डू नॉट वांट टू डीमोटिवेट यू गाइस टू।
नहीं, डिमोटिवेशन कुछ नहीं है इसमें। देखो, मैं एक बात देखो, हर चीज के प्रॉस एंड कॉन्स होते हैं। आज भी आप सीए से कम फीस वाला कोर्स दिखा दो जो आपको ठीक ठाक कैपेबिलिटी दे देता हो, आपको कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड में सीधे जाके ले जाके खड़ा कर देता हो, मेरे हिसाब से नहीं है आज की डेट में। ये इसका रुतबा था, रुतबा है और शायद आगे भी रहेगा। बट
Yes, can we start now? I think it's 7:06 and almost who wanted to join has already joined.
Sure, sure. I'll go ahead.
Right.
Hi, guys. So I'll start with the very brief. Okay. I'll start with a very brief introduction. So I have an engineering background. I worked for an year after that. And then in 22, I went on to study from FMS. I graduated in 24, and since then I've been working in product management at Axtria. Okay. And I have had a fair share of my group discussions and interviews. And based on that, I'll try to give you a few sanitation checks for both of those. Okay. Let me know when you can see my screen. Right? You guys can see it. Can somebody respond?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. So we'll start with the group discussion first. Okay. So most of the demeanor or the mannerisms associated with group discussions would be true for the personal interviews as well. Okay. And stop me wherever you want. So if anything at all needs clarification, it would be good if you stop me then and there. Okay. Keeping all the questions for the end would not be fine, because I would have the thoughts right there in my mind. So it would be better if you stop me right there. Okay. So a GD has three broad sections. Okay. Not a lot of colleges would do that, but the colleges that do take GDs take it very seriously, because it's a measure to sort out people mostly, and pick up the right flock for their interviews. A lot of it is decided during the group discussion stage itself. Okay. So do take it very seriously, all the group discussions that the colleges would be taking. So the three parts of any group discussion is initiation, which is the introduction to the topic. Only a single person would be doing that. And then it's the conclusion. All the thoughts that are shared in between by any of the person. Okay. The entire panel of people that are sitting there, all of it is jibber jabber. Not a lot of it is heard, even by the moderator who is there to moderate the GD. But it sure is important. You can project all your structured thoughts there, but the introduction and the conclusion parts are most important. So be sure when you are in a GD, be sure to make one entrance. So one of your entrances. So mostly, ideally, it is around 3-4 times that you are expected to speak in any group discussion. Okay, that's the ideal amount. Not too less, not too much as well. Okay. So out of those 3-4 instances that you do speak, make sure that one of it is either the introduction or the conclusion, and make sure it's just one of those. Don't try to do both the introductions and the conclusion. Okay. So introduction part has certain things that you need to keep in mind. Okay. So you'll be given a minute or two, ideally by most colleges, to prepare your thought process or whatever you can think on the topic. Okay. So what you would be doing during the introduction is during the thought process step, when you're given the topic, what you need to do is you need to jot down everything, not just what your arguments would be. Everything that you can think of can be discussed on this particular topic. Okay. So very simply put, if I pick a topic as globalization, okay, whether it is meritorious or not, so it can have both good aspects and bad aspects, but you would not restrict. If you are in favor of it, you would not restrict the introduction only to the merit parts of it. Okay. You would present everything, that these are the broader topics that I could share, or that the entire group can talk upon. Okay. So which is what I have written here. So first it would be you structure your own thoughts as to what you want to speak, and based on that, you start adding the other topics as well or other broader points as well, and try to organize into a logical flow. Okay, you cannot say something in any order. Okay, all the points that you have for yourself or on a piece of paper, you cannot just keep saying in any order. Even during the introduction, when you present the points, that these would be certain things that we as a group could be talking upon, and there could be other points that come circumstantially while you are having that discussion. Okay, so when you decide upon those points, when you're trying to give that introduction, make sure that it has a logical flow. And the last point that I've written is be creative. So when we talk about globalization, again, taking the same example, most of you would pick up the history of it, the merits of it, the cons of it, the pros and cons, and the nations that have essentially benefited from the policy, other nations that did not or did not benefit from the policy. And there could be an other aspect as well, that the nations that did not very aggressively show the signs of globalization and yet had good rapport, okay, altogether. So these would be the topics that anyone could pick up. Now you need to be creative as to some things, as to a few broader topics that you think no one would have picked up upon. Okay, or only a few select few people would have thought about. So try to include a few things that are unique to the topic, that shows the, I mean, essentially the diverse thought process that you have. You're not very restricted to a particular topic, and it shows the kind of wide variety of sense that you have, the presence of mind that you have, because all these topics are given to you right then and there. Okay, so it shows your presence of mind that you can be creative even when it is given to you then and there. Okay, and a lot of it depends on what you already know. You cannot come up with those broader sections until and unless you're well read. Okay, so it might sound like a very simple topic, but you will see that during the discussion, you'll see aspects coming up both in support and against, that you thought couldn't be, I mean, taken into consideration given the topic. But you would see that when you meet people, when you are in a discussion with people from various backgrounds, because obviously MBA people come from all sorts of undergraduate degrees. Okay, so when you meet people with all sorts of backgrounds, you'll see the kind of diverse thought processes that they have. Okay, so which is why I'm saying try to be creative, try to capitalize on what you already know, and then try to build on top of that and think of something new that could be included given whatever the topic you have provided, whatever the topic you have. Okay, next, during the jibber jabber that goes in between, obviously you would have a logical flow there as well. Just because I've written jibber jabber does not mean you can put it in any way. Okay, now, you would have a logical flow there. First of all, certain sanitation checks that are to be kept in mind. Okay, the mannerisms, etc. I will talk about those in the next slide when I talk about the interview process, because most of them would be same for the group discussion as well, how you carry yourself and how you present your arguments. Okay, but there are a few sanitation checks very particular to group discussions, such as, first of all, very particular to the, I mean, the male part of the audience. Okay. So you can never interrupt when a girl is speaking. It is very important. Okay. You would have negative points for that. As a matter of fact, you cannot interrupt anyone. If you find someone lagging when they are presenting their argument, so people might take a pause. So you can just jump up there. Okay, because it might seem that the person is lagging or the person is wasting time, or it sounds apparently that that was the end of their argument that they were trying to put up. Okay, so you can jump up there and start talking, but remember very carefully, even if you are interrupting, guys, you can interrupt a guy, but you can never interrupt a girl when you're speaking. Okay, so those are the few things that you do need to keep in mind. Okay, and not a lot of instances that you need to speak on. You can have a lot of points. If you have a lot of points, first of all, you just collate everything, and when it's your chance, try to speak most of it. Try to be very concise and precise. Okay, because someone will pick again from you as well. Okay, so like you interrupted, someone would interrupt you and take the stand from you. Okay, so be very concise, be very precise when you're talking, when you are given that chance, and try speaking all the points that you have. Now, that does not mean that you pick up something that has already been spoken upon and you're already on a new topic. Okay, so suppose, sorry. Okay, so let's suppose one of the project sections was the entire group was talking on the pros of globalization. Okay, so the entire group has presented their arguments. Now the group is discussing the cons of globalization. Now you cannot go back on the pros. The section has already ended. You are trying again, it's all about that flow. You cannot disturb the entire flow just for your own sake. Okay, that disturbs the entire group discussion, that disturbs the entire group. Okay, so that again has negative points. More than concentrating on what gains you positive points, be very sure not to take negative points. Okay, and try to present whatever you have, be it very simple points, be it very complex data points that you might have, or very logical things that you might think that other people might not think upon. Anything at all that it is. Okay, be very concise, be very precise, and speak in a flow. Okay, now moving on to the conclusion part. Now during the entire discussion, if you have planned that you want to give the conclusion for this GD when the entire GD ends, so ideally in the way that you get a minute or two to collate your thoughts in the very beginning before the commencement of the entire discussion, you do get 1 minute to close everything as well. You would not be given time for that, okay, to prepare the conclusion. As soon as you see a bell or an indication from the moderator, you would have to start concluding. And it can be anyone from the group. Okay, so if you do think that you want to give the conclusion, during the entire discussion, be very sure to write everything that was presented either by you or anyone else. Okay, it can be from anyone. So you need to you need to write like very small phrases or single words, 2 words. You need to note down everything that was presented during the entire group discussion. Okay, and while closing, again, you need to be very precise, 30-40 seconds maximum. That conclusion needs to be. And you could just present these. So this was the headline of the entire GD. Then you had certain points. Then we moved on to this topic, and these were the major data points or the major logical points that were presented by the group. And in the end, as a group, we concluded that this. So XYZ was your conclusion as a group. Okay, so introduction and conclusion are the parts of the group discussion where you do not think about your own performance. You will be presenting the entire group. Okay, so during the conclusion as well, whatever the discussions had taken place by the entire group, you would have to present those. Be sure, do not miss all the major points that were discussed. You could miss out on a few things, okay, the smaller arguments or the repetitive or the redundant ones, but be sure that you do not miss out on the major arguments or the major data points that were mentioned. Okay, and during the entire discussion, during the GD Jubber Jabber part, okay, be very sure not to look at the moderator. It's a group discussion. You are supposed to be interacting as a group. Okay, so be very sure that you are looking at people in the group. So mostly the setting, if it's in an offline manner, okay, so you would be seated either around a table, mostly it would be a round table, or in a half circle. Okay, so you would be able to see everyone else in the group as well. Okay, so while presenting your arguments during the group discussion, be very sure to look at everyone else, but not the moderator. But while concluding, this is the only time that you think or you can actually look at the moderator as well while concluding, because you are presenting the entire group's arguments that had taken place in the past 8 to 12 minutes. Okay, that is the ideal time for a group discussion as well. Okay. And be very sure not to repeat anything. Okay. Again, be very precise. Do not try to be redundant in anything. Okay. If it's a very, I would say relevant or considerable amount of addition to an existing point that you have, only then you should be speaking on the on a topic that has already been spoken on. And also it should be recent. Okay. There should not be a lot of gap between the points that you're sharing. So far, any questions for me?
Hi, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
So I was wondering, can we, for how long do we speak at once?
See, there's no particular time frame, but again, if it's a 10-minute GD and you have like 8 people, okay, so it's okay for an instance. So in an instance, if you speak for about a minute, okay, slightly over that, 10-15 seconds over a minute, it's okay. But ideally, you should be speaking for 1 minute in one instance, okay, and you could be making 2 or 3 such entries into a group discussion.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm. Also, let's say while lagging, we take the chance, right? So what if two or three people
Mhm.
try to take that chance simultaneously? What do we do? Like, do we stop and be polite and
Yes, it's very important to be polite in that scenario. Again, you have an advantage because when you speak, if there are guys that are trying to speak at the same time, most of them will stop if they know the basic sanitation checks. If they don't, you stop, you'll get those extra points, those brownie points. Okay.
understood?
And do not pay a lot of attention on the duration or all these checks. Okay. Basic decorum of the GD, if you maintain that and if you present very logical uh, arguments with coupled with data points, that is more than enough. Okay. So not a lot of attention is to be paid on this. If it comes naturally, it's obviously again a brownie point, but do not pay attention on that you forget about presenting your actual arguments. Okay, because this is what sets in the panic mode in people and they start forgetting their actual points that they wanted to present.
Okay, understood. Also, are we open to give examples of like different scenarios if there is a topic on that where we can give examples?
As in?
Mm, okay, let me think about it for a minute and I'll get back to you. Thank you.
Sure. And
Ayush, may I ask you one thing?
sure, please go ahead.
Actually, I would want to take an instance of the Accelerate JD, which I took part in this year
Sure.
itself. So we had got a topic for 15 minutes, and then we were expected to present our conclusions in the next 5 minutes,
Huh.
right? But supposedly, I was the eighth candidate,
Hmm.
and as per my belief, 5 minutes were already over by the time I got my chance to conclude. So,
Sure.
what could have been the best scenario? I mean, should I have taken all my points and all my duration, not considering the 5 minutes barrier, or should I have, consolidated it to the bare minimum?
Okay. So
What?
let me make sure. So let me confirm this. So every person was given those 5 minutes to conclude?
No, no, we were given 5 minutes in. I mean, in total,
The entire group, right?
right?
So first of all, in the ideal situation, first of all, 5 minutes is a lot of time. If you're given that, well and good. Okay. So in that scenario, you can add upon the conclusion that anyone has presented. But once again, in an ideal GD, never add upon anything. Okay. So suppose some other guy has presented the conclusion. Okay. And you think that the guy has missed out on a few points that we had discussed. Never try to correct him. Okay. Because conclusion means the end. Okay, you do not speak after that. Okay, it's better
Uh,
that the moderator does not stop you. If it's always better that the moderator does not have to remind you about such things. Okay, so it's always ideal that you do not uh, bring about any reminders or any additional points for that matter. But if you are given sufficient time, like you said, 5 minutes, 5 minutes is a lot of time. So they expected a few people to speak, not just one person. Okay, because 5 minutes is a lot for a single person. Even extemporaries and speeches are not that long. Okay.
Actually, I think might have not presented myself correctly. All
Okay.
of us were supposed to give a takeaways, right?
Oh.
So seven of them might have taken those 5 minutes,
Hmm.
right? And now I'm the last one. Whether I should be considering that 5 minutes barrier or I should complete my takeaways to the maximum. That
Sure,
was
sure,
my
sure.
question.
You don't have to think about the time. Okay.
All right. So I can
You,
take, I mean, as
yeah.
much time as I want, but I should make sure that I'm emphasizing on each and every takeaway, right?
Yes, whatever your takeaways are, try to not be redundant as far as
Hmm.
possible,
Okay.
because it's very difficult to not be redundant when everyone is being asked the same thing.
Hmm.
Okay, I understand that, but try to be again very precise, be very concise and very precise.
Okay.
Those are the two things that you would have to remember in your PIs as well. Okay. A lot of discussions, people won't remember all of it. Again, it becomes jibber jabber. Okay. So be very concise, be very precise, so that out of all the 7, 8 conclusions that were presented, yours is the most impactful one. Okay. You would have an added advantage that you were the last one. So the last thing would be in the minds of the moderators as well while scoring you. Okay. So
Right.
you have that advantage as well, but try to be very precise, because since they are closing, they know that the time is over. But if you are given that chance to present, you are not obstructed in any way, you are not told to stop, okay, that the time is over, you cannot speak. Okay, so
Hmm.
you can carry on, but try to be as concise as possible.
Right. Thanks, Yash. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Yash. I have a
Hi.
question. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So I participated in few of the online GDs last time and this year as well. But it is like I find it difficult to get entry into online GD. So
Sure.
could you please list down some hygiene factors or like what are the tricks that I should follow to get an entry,
Yes.
effective entry?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
very difficult in online GDs to make your entrances. Okay. First of all, a lot of technical problems. Okay. You would not be heard. Maybe you are not heard in the first go. Okay. First of all,
Right.
you need to make sure that you are in an absolute silent environment so that you can keep your mic always on during a GD. Okay.
Okay.
Because whenever you actually want to make a point, you do not need to make the effort to turn on the mic and then say something, because everyone is trying to do that and they would pick up on that chance. Okay. Try to be in a very quiet environment, try to jump on the first opportunity that you get. Okay. And I would say essentially you do not have to think a lot about impacting someone. Okay. DB, whoever it is, please mute yourself. Yeah. So you do not have to think a lot about it when 3 or 4 people are pouncing aboard in that chance to speak. Okay. Because uh, if, even the moderators understand that a lot of technical problems do exist in the online scenario. Okay. So
Right.
you jump on that chance, try to present your points. I understand there is, I mean, no way to go through it. It's all how quickly you can respond to that circumstance and to the scenario that has been presented by the discussion or the group that you are discussing with or having that GD with.
Yes.
But yeah, try to take every possible chance. I would say it's very difficult. I understand. I have given a few online GDs. It's very difficult. I do
Yes.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah. One more question. May I ask?
Sure, sure, sure. Please.
Yeah, like suppose there is a topic XYZ, like you said, globalization. So
Mm,
someone said pro, and now I want to add in another pro. So
mm.
can I say like following this guy's discussion, like
Yeah,
pointing out
those
and
are basic sanitation checks. Those are just mannerisms of speaking that, yeah, just to add on top of that, or just to following from the, I mean, following from my panelist, or following from the discussions just held, or following from the point that was just made by the person in the group. Those are just cues that you can use to create a segue, essentially. But yeah, those are very basic hygiene factors.
That's not a problem. Okay, thank you.
Hi, sir.
Um,
Hi, Yash. Uh, Actually, I'm a bit confused on about the conclusion part. Like,
okay.
do we get the chance to discuss among ourselves, or as soon as the timer
No,
is
you do
over, we
not
can
get
start?
exactly. You do not get a chance to discuss among yourselves. Okay. Again, I'm talking about most of the GDs. It's not a very special case where you are allowed to do so. Okay. So most of the cases you do not have that chance, which is why I said that during the entire discussion, try to note down everything that you can. Okay.
And what if I want to conclude and someone else also?
You missed your chance there.
Okay.
Only one person should be
So we
concluding.
have to be fast in it.
Exactly. So, and you need to be I mean, you need to make sure that you pick either a either the introduction or the conclusion part. Be very sure to do that. Okay.
And one more question: can you brief on like what kind of words which should avoid speaking?
Uh, you do not use abusive words. Okay. You do not even go to the lengths of saying bullshit. Okay. Even that sounds absurd in a group discussion. And you do not have to have a very complex vocabulary. Okay. So you can be very simple in your sentences that you do make, but what is important is that you are very clear in what you're presenting. Okay, whatever you're speaking, you have to be very clear so that it does not derail your discussion for the entire group, and the moderator is able to understand your points as well. Because no one would ask you for any clarification. If you do derail the group discussion, so that would be again amounting to a negative sort of perspective to your candidate.
Can I use words like I believe or from
Sure,
my
sure.
perspective? It
Yeah,
can
yeah.
work.
You can have subjective points of view as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other question? From the chat, I'll take questions after this, okay? After the entire thing.
So can
Hello,
you hear
sir.
me?
I wanted to ask a question to you that
Mm.
in a GD, if I start saying something and two, three other persons or simultaneously started speaking, then what should I do in this case?
Stop right there. You need to stop. Okay? It's very, I mean, whoever is polite, again, you would have a positive perspective towards that. And so it's not very necessary if everyone is trying to jump on the topic, okay, jump at the chance of speaking. Okay, everyone is trying to do that. So try to be like persistent for some time, for a few seconds. If no one is shutting up, you do that. Okay, because again, there are always brownie points for that etiquette as well. Okay, for your demeanor, for the behavior that you present while discussing with the group. It's not just, they are not just looking for your arguments. They know those arguments very well. Whatever the group would be presenting, they already know 80-90% of the arguments that would be coming from the entire group. They want to see how you would function as a group. Okay. So group discussions or group projects are a very major part of MBS, which is why these GDs were introduced in the first place during the selection process of these colleges. Okay. So they just want to see how you function as a group, how you listen, and how you speak, present your points as well. So it's very important to listen as well.
Hello, sir.
Hi, Mayank.
Sir, two doubts, and that's it. Sir, number one, if, for example, there's a topic where we do not have a single knowledge about,
Okay.
what should we be doing?
You wait. Okay. So a few topics are very vague in nature. Okay. Even if you know, you might not get it from just one sentence that was told to you by the moderator. Okay. So you wait for 2, 3 people to actually initiate the discussion. And once you have a certain amount of understanding, because the topics would not be very difficult. Okay. So if you're from, uh, okay, so let's suppose you are not a science student. Okay, they
Yes,
would
I'm
not
not.
be asking about very advanced science topics as to how you would actually do that, or what quantum computing is, those are very random, vague topics which you won't be asked at all. Okay, the topics are put out in such a way that everyone has something to present, even when you are all from each, when each one of you is from a different background. Okay, which is the very case with people who are trying to pursue an MBA. You come from all kinds of backgrounds, right? So they would give topics which where you would be able to speak something, but if you do not understand what kind of arguments you should be presenting on such a topic, you wait for 2 3 people to actually put out something, and based on top of that you start building on top of those arguments and actually present something that you already know, and again whatever creative new arguments that you can build on top of that.
Got it, sir. And the second point, just one more.
Hmm.
One guy just before me had asked you that um, when when 2 3 people are coming in,
Mm-hmm.
and you told me that you have to tone down a bit and you need to stay silent. The
Yes.
problem is, will the moderator not think this is a sign of a weakness or something?
No, no. Once again, this is a very basic sanitation check for GDs.
Got it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take further arguments later. Let's move on to the PI part. Okay. So these are the few things that you need to keep in mind before an interview. It all goes into the preparation. First of all, keep in mind that you do not have to be very particular about everything that I tell you. Okay. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. Okay. It could be the kind of English that you speak, the kind of arguments that you have, that the kind of logic that you have, or the kind of knowledge that you have. Okay. So it could be a lot of different things, a lot of different strengths and weaknesses that you might have, and everyone's circumstances are very subjective in nature. Okay, so what applies to one person might not apply to any other person. Okay, so be very subjective in your preparations as well, which is why you have very personalized interviews. Okay, mock interviews are meant for that very purpose. So you have certain interviews with different people, and you try to gauge how your profile would be analyzed in a real scenario and how you would be questioned in a real scenario, which is why you try to get interviewed from different people as well, because there might be things in your profile that might not have been picked by the first person or the second person, but sure would be picked by the third person. Okay, so depending, each profile is very different. Each one of you has had a very different journey. Okay, and it's very subjective how you prepare to counter that during an interview. Okay, so before an interview, it's very important that you study everything about the institute. Now, studying everything does not mean you go into the entire history and everything, but a few major things are okay. So you could not be, so suppose someone asked you, why do you want to do an MBA? You should have an answer, right? Now, if in your answer you do say that this institute, I mean, I'm interested in, suppose, finance. Okay. Now, if the institute is not at all good at providing you that finance knowledge, advanced finance knowledge, or putting you into companies that recruit for such roles, it would be absurd to say that, right? So try to refrain from putting such sentences in your answers. Okay, so be very, I mean, generalistic when you're trying to justify as to why you want to do an MBA from this particular institute, or why you want to do an MBA at all. Okay, so try to research about the institute, the kind of companies that visit, the kind of alumni base that it has, what kind of, I mean, the kind of places that those alumni have reached, the kind of programs that the institute offers, the kind of extracurriculars or the co-curriculars that the institute offers. So it needs to be an entire ecosystem. Every institute is an entire ecosystem in its own, and you need to be very particular about what you study about it. You cannot be presenting arguments that contradict that very ecosystem of that particular institute that you are interviewing for. Okay. Secondly, it's very important to dress appropriately. Okay. It might seem very counterintuitive, but how you dress is also very important. Okay. So all your answers might be very good. Your profile might be very excellent, 999 and all of that. Okay. But how you dress, how you present your arguments is also very important. Okay. Equally important, I would say, especially in an offline interview. Okay, online interviews has its own perks alongside the all the cons that it has. Okay, it has its own perks, but in an offline scenario, even when you enter the interview room, the way that you sit, the way that you carry your suit or the tie that you're wearing, the hair that you have, whether or not you are well groomed, everything would be taken into consideration. Okay, now there are a set of very common questions. Okay, so why MBA? Tell me about yourself, and then why this college? Why did you pursue engineering? Why are you coming to do an MBA when you already have an engineering degree? You wasted all those 4 years, or the kind of work ex that you already have, you wasted those years as well. So these are the common questions that you can anticipate based on your own profile that you might be asked. Okay, and during the, I mean, the initial few questions in an interview are mostly these questions, because they are also trying to create a flow with that interview. Okay, and trying to understand more apart from the written profile that they have about you. Okay, and then there would be very specific questions that would be true only for you. So like I said, I mentioned earlier as well, everyone's profile is very different. No two profiles are same ever. Okay, so you need to pick a few instances from your life, so 3 4 instances. And what I mean by this is, why do you need to have these 3 4 instances? So for questions that come up suddenly, okay, those sudden questions, you need to pick those instances and try to answer those. So if you receive a question like, um, name a situation where you overcome something important, or you faced a very big problem, or you had to go against your superiors or your professors or your manager. Okay, so you need to have those 3 4 instances ready. Okay, and you need to pick any one from those. Take a few seconds. It's always okay to take a few seconds from the interview. You can take permission to think about an instance, and you immediately pick. Please mute yourselves. Yeah, right. So you immediately pick one of those instances which you think would fit right into this situation. And then based on top of that, you try to fit it into the question that was asked to you. Okay, we'll discuss a few questions post this, but this is what I mean when I ask you to prepare a few instances from your life. And a thing that I forgot about dressing appropriately. So even your hand gestures, okay, the mannerisms or the etiquette that you present while even arguing or while presenting your answers as well, that is of much importance as well. So you need to have proper hand gestures as well, especially in an online scenario, because it's a very restricted frame that you are presenting yourself in. Okay, your entire body is not visible, so be very sure that your hand gestures are visible, but not so much that it covers your face or it blocks your actual the way that you're speaking or the things that you're trying to convey. Okay, be very subtle with those hand gestures, or be very subtle with the way that you speak. Okay, be, even if you want to speak very fast, but the things that are coming out from your mouth, the words, the way that you articulate those sentences should be very concise and precise. Once again, okay, it should be very clear, it should be clear to the interviewer, because no one would really ask you for a clarification on whatever you have said. They might counter question, but they would never ask for a clarification. And such answers, such subjective answers are always open to interpretation. Okay, so you might want to say something, you might want to convey something, but you might just have said something else that the interviewer might have interpreted. Okay, so try to be very simple in your sentences, in the words or in the vocabulary that you use, and in the way that you articulate your sentences. Okay, then next is resume. Be very thorough with your own profile. Okay, it would sound very absurd if you do not know the exact details from your own profile. Okay, so if you have like 24 months of experience and you do not know what you did during those 24 months at your organization, that sounds very absurd. And I have taken such interviews in the past where people were not aware of things that they had written in their own resumes. Okay, so it's very important that you know everything about your own profile and you have a reasoning, you have a proper backing for everything. Okay, current affairs, it's more about sounding relevant than about knowing whatever is happening around the world. It's always a plus point to know things that are happening around you or essentially happening around the globe. But knowing current affairs would help you cite relevant recent examples that would help you better articulate your responses. Okay, so if you are talking about, so you very hypothetically, if it goes very philosophically or it goes in a historical scenario and you try to, or let's suppose the topic is geopolitics and you try to present something from ancient history, it would be always better if you present something from the recent scenario. Okay, so this is why you need to be aware of what is happening around you and in the entire world so that you could cite relevant examples of whatever is already happening, because that helps the interviewer as well to recall very quickly and try to relate with whatever answers that you've just presented. Okay, the last thing, system checks, is again for an online interview, be very thorough with your entire system, the laptop that you're using, the kind of Wi-Fi connection that you have, the kind of power backup that you have. Be very thorough with those, because once if you drop out of an interview, it's very rare that it would be rescheduled or you would be allowed again into the interview. I mean the interview room or whatever you want to say. Okay, so it's very rare that the interview would continue. So if you are getting such golden opportunities to be interviewed at such good top colleges, do not miss out on those for such small things such as system checks or the kind of answers that you have. Or and it's always okay to say that you do not have an answer to the question. Okay, that is also okay always. Any questions from this? These are pre-checks before an interview.
Sir, I have two questions.
Please
Am I
go ahead.
audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Sir, one is related to GD. So if let's say, for example, the person who spoke just before me, he made a point, as an example, but I have a very strong point to oppose it. So I hope it is to do that.
Yeah, it's okay. It's completely fine. So you can start with like disagreeing with my fellow panelist. Okay. And you can just carry on with your point. It's always okay to present, I mean, speak what point of his or her that you're trying to counter. Okay. So that the entire group understands what point you're presenting and in what context you are trying to present. And it should be very clear that you're trying to counter as well, because not a lot of people pay attention whatever you're trying to say. Everyone is worried about their own chances of speaking. Okay, so make it very clear that you're trying to counter.
And sir, how do we start the, like, how should I start my point in that way?
How should you start the counterpoint?
I mean, how to present my point? Like, the starting line should be, you know, like how should I?
Again, you are worrying about all the wrong things. Okay, from the questions that I've been receiving from you guys, you are worrying about all the wrong things. Just be very simple in your sentences. That's what I've been saying. Okay, you can simply say that I want to counter this point that was mentioned by my fellow panelist. Okay, or I think that the argument that was presented was wrong, so I would like to present a counterpoint. So be very simple in the kind of sentences that you are trying to articulate. Okay, be more focused on the actual arguments that you're presenting and not what the way that you're presenting. Okay, be very simple. If you are not okay with constructing very complex sentences or using very advanced vocabulary, be very simple. And it's always, I mean, desirable to use simple words and sentences because there are other people. It's not the interviewer or the moderator that you would be interacting with. There are other students that you would be interacting with. and not all of them might understand whatever you're saying. So it's always okay as to not derail the entire group discussion, that you be very simple in your words and your arguments.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
So my
Sir,
second question, sir, it is related to PI. Let's say,
Okay.
for example, interview. Let's say, for example, I have work X. Let's say it is related to sales. But let's say, for example, I'm sitting like in the interview of a university or college, which is not like its degree, it's not that good in sales, but it is good in terms of let's say finance or any other domain. So how to substantiate my work ex in that scenario?
See, first of all, you can simply say, okay, I would have to look at your entire profile to actually frame an answer, but I can give you a few pointers. So you could be saying that you want to pursue an MBA, first of all, to change the entire paradigm that you've been doing right now. Okay. But
Okay.
never ever neglect or demean the kind of work or the kind of organization that you have already worked at. Okay, be sure to mention that there is something that you learned from there which you would be able to capitalize going ahead, even if you're changing domains, even if you're changing the entire paradigm. Okay, be very sure to mention that there are certain things that I would be picking from here, but this is the way that I'm thinking forward that I would be going. So I want to change paradigms, and these are the certain 1, 2, 3 reasons that which you would be citing based on what you want to change that domain. Okay. So again, once again, mentioning that I was from an engineering background, my work ex was in software, but I wanted to do an MBA. So I had proper reasoning as to why I'm certainly shifting gears from technology to business environment. Okay. So I was always sure to mention whatever I've learned that would play a lot of role. And going ahead, I would learn new things which I would add on top of what I already know.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Uh, Good
Sir,
evening, sir.
Uh,
Sir, actually, I
hello.
have one question for you.
Sure.
Sir, can you just list down the parameters on which we will be evaluated in during the GD? Like the regulator would be looking on which kind, what are the things that the regulator might be looking during a
Hmm.
GD?
Sure. So there are two major things. Okay. Again, it's your demeanor. So it will include everything: the way you're dressed, the way you're speaking, the way you're not interrupting people. Okay. The way that you're presenting your arguments, the way that you have a logical flow, all of that. And then the second important part is the actual arguments itself. Okay, whether you have a relevant point to be mentioned during that particular part of the discussion, wherever you have mentioned, and if at all you mention a certain data point or something up that might sound absurd to other people in the group or the moderator. Okay, whether or not it is apt, whether or not it is true, whether or not it is accurate. Okay, so these are the two major things. You can have a big list as to what that constitutes of, but these are the two major things that you would be looked at. So even when you're sitting, so let's suppose it's in an offline scenario. Okay, so try to be very responsive. Try to face whoever in the group is speaking. Okay, try to face that person. So whenever that person changes, whoever is speaking, try to face the next person. Okay. And when you are speaking, try to look at the entire group. Never face the moderator during that discussion. It's only the conclusion part where you can actually look at the moderator, because you would be concluding on behalf of the entire group. Next question.
sir, am I audible?
Yeah, Amrinder, you
Yeah.
are.
Yes. Sir, I have two questions. One is like, how broad should a conclusion be? Like, is it okay if you miss 1, 2 points? Like, I feel
Yeah,
okay. And one more thing, like when you're speaking, like you should maintain eye contact with all the members of the GD. But should you also look towards the mentors, like when you are speaking once or
please listen very carefully, because this is the third time that I'm repeating. Never look at the moderator during the GD. It's only the conclusion part that you can look at the moderator. Next.
yeah, these were my questions.
Next question, if there are any. No. Okay. Let's move to the next part. Okay. So this is the last part. So first of all, first impressions. What I mean by that is, as soon as the interview starts, either in an online mode or if it's in an offline mode, you would be entering a room. You would be asking permission. First of all, you greet the person, be it good afternoon, be it good evening, whatever it is. You greet the person and you ask permission, if not already asked to sit. Okay, if you have not been already asked to sit, you take permission and then sit. Okay, so there are certain ways you do not be very stiff or very relaxed as well. Okay, you can just have a normal posture. You do not rest your hands on the arms of the chair as well. You try to maintain an erect pose and try to smile as much as possible, I would say. Okay, not in a very creepy manner, but try to be as enthusiastic and try to smile as much as possible. Keep in mind that you are not smiling on something serious that is being discussed. If it is something such as a war or some dire situation, such as a famine or flood or some other natural disaster, if it's being discussed, you do not smile on that. Obviously, that should be very clear. It's common sense, but try to be very enthusiastic while presenting your answers and try to articulate it in a way that it does not become boring for the person listening you. Okay, so you might have a very long 2 minute introduction for yourself. First of all, it does not have to be 2 minute. Ideally, the introduction is 60 seconds. If you have a lot to speak, you can go about 90 seconds as well, which is 1.5 minute. But then again, if you do go to that length, okay, that amount of time, be very sure that you are interesting and you have again a very logical flow in the way that you're like, supposedly you have a minute of thoughts that you're trying to present about yourself. Okay, so it should have a logical flow. So you say that you graduated from here and you did your schooling from here. After post graduation, you had work ex or you did not have work ex. Okay, and then you try to present your soft skills part after that, and then towards the end you present something like hobbies or the kind of interest that you have, which is apart from the entire curriculum or the work that you do. Okay, so you should have other interests as well. So this would be a logical flow where you talk about yourself, and that would be true for any answer. Okay, so a very common question is name 3 strengths about you or name a few weaknesses about you. Okay, so be very sure as to what you would be saying as answers to those questions and try to have proper reasoning. Again, like I mentioned in the last slide as well, this is one of the common questions and you need to be prepared for this. So they might ask you to cite instances from your life where you actually presented those strengths, okay, or weaknesses as well. And whenever you're trying to present something negative from your life, not just weaknesses, anything from your life that might sound very negative, okay, or even slightly negative, you try to present that as it is, and then you end it with a positive connotation. So if you are mentioning a weakness, you say that you've been trying to improve this, and this is the degree that you have achieved, degree of achievement that you have had while improving on this aspect, and you're still working, or this is the kind of achievement that I've had with this weakness of mine. Okay, so try to always end it on a positive note. Okay, and the last point that I have here is be very honest. Okay, most of those guys that would be taking your interviews, okay, a few colleges would have alums from those colleges as well. So a few of those would be IIT Delhi, I guess, and IIT Bombay as well, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so a few of those colleges invite their own alums during the interview process. So apart from those, the professors that would be interviewing you have been doing so for 15 years, 20 years. Okay. And they can pick out your lies in an instance. So try to be very truthful. Okay. Do not try to lie about anything at all. Sorry. Okay. Whatever it is about your profile, try to be very logical and very honest about whatever you're trying to say. even if you lie about anything at all, again, you should have a proper reasoning, because if they suspect something, that something has been something wrong from whatever the answer that you have given, okay, you would have a number of counter questions on those. Okay, so be very sure that you have proper foolproof reasoning for any question that you for any answer that you're presenting before them. Okay, and it's very important, again, the kind of articulation that you have with your answers, be try to be very simple in your answers. Do not use a lot of complex vocabulary, lot of complex sentences. Okay, try not to use a lot of conjunctions in your sentences as well, so as to make a one long sentence. Be very try to use as smaller sentences, and be quick with like punctuations as well. The punctuation should be visible in the manner that you're trying to speak. And while being asked a question, okay, be very careful that you understand whatever the professor is trying to ask. Again, professors very rarely have the time to clarify anything. If you understand something else, if you interpret something else from the question that they've asked, and you answer in that way, they wouldn't really ask for any clarification, or they wouldn't actually give any clarification. If you require that clarification immediately after the question, if you suspect that you might have a misinterpretation, be sure to clarify. Okay, so it's very important that you listen very carefully to the question that has been asked to you. And while doing all of this, okay, while answering, while gaining thoughts from your past, while trying to get instances from your life, or trying to pick things from your life or your resume, be very sure that you do not lose your mannerism. Okay, never try to look anywhere else in the room, never try to look towards your shoes, anything at all. Okay, be very sure to maintain eye contact with at least one interviewer. Okay, do not keep staring at one. Okay, more often than not, there would be more than one interviewer. Okay, so be very sure that you maintain eye contact with all of them. Okay, and yeah, that should be it, I guess. If you have any particular questions, let's take them now.
Good evening, sir.
Hi,
Uh,
yeah.
Sir, actually, I did my BTech in an odd area like printing engineering.
Acha.
So actually, I am not able to conclude that how should I present it. Like
Hmm.
I did that because of my family thing. I didn't do that because of my interest.
Okay.
So,
Once again,
how
it's
should I
very
deal with that?
simple. Okay, Anvi, you have to understand that one of the major points that I just mentioned was try to be very honest. Okay, everyone understands that the circumstances are different for different people, right? So if you have an honest reason that it was certain family circumstances due to which you could not prepare a lot, or you could not have a drop year to prepare for JEE or other entrance examinations, and you had to pick whatever best you could find based on whatever scores that you had that year. Okay, so
Oh,
those,
oh,
yeah, so those are the reasons that you already have, and those are true, honest reasons. So just go on, say that this is what I did, okay, but I did not waste my time. I tried to learn a few things. Again, like I said, if you think something is negative on your resume or from your life, okay, try to always end it on a positive connotation, right? So you have
okay,
to say that printing engineering, although might sound easy, you did learn a lot of things, and you try to be like self-actualization. Okay, that's a term. Okay, so you try to learn a few things from your own as well. Okay, you picked on a few things. You had 4 years to explore and learn a lot of things. And finally, you're trying to do an MBA, capitalizing on whatever you have already done and trying to learn a few things so that you could actually shift gears and try to do something like meaningful, impactful in your life. Okay.
okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Hi,
Next.
sir. Yeah, I have a question.
Right.
Yeah, so like I applied, I'm a chartered accountant and I was in Deloitte for M&A tax. Like for 19-20 months.
Anyway,
Then due to some personal circumstances, I had to leave my job and come to my hometown. And then
sure.
I was like not employed for the 5 months because like there was issue going on. And now if someone asks me like there is a break in your CV, and then why you did not go back to Deloitte, because I joined in my hometown only in other
Okay.
company. So if is it okay if I say that as a personal circumstance and then I prioritize my family to over the work?
Yes. First of all, when was this gap from and to?
This April the current year to October current year.
April
20.
to October.
Yeah, April.
And you're trying to say that you did not join and you want the reasoning as to why did not go back after the problem was solved, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not a problem. Okay, again, be very honest in whatever reason that you had. Okay, they might be nosy about the reason. They might want to know as to what personal reason that you had, because you would not be alone trying to cite a private matter or personal matter as a reason for having a gap or whatever shortcomings on your resume. Okay, so be very sure to like present the reason as it is. And then so you have to mention that first of all, it was very difficult to get a job. It was very difficult to explain to the companies that why I was coming back after a gap, and it was difficult to get interviews as a recent graduate. And so, I mean, there was a lack of opportunities in whatever domain, M&A, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
So you did not have a lot of opportunities in mergers and acquisitions in whatever grade or function that you were already at. Okay. And then you say that you had already thought about pursuing an MBA. So since the exam was only a month or two later, okay, there was only a month or two before CAT. So you try to give all that attention to that exam in order to pursue your MBA from a good college.
Yeah, that was. Sir, I have another question related to this.
Sure.
May I? Yeah, so like in my ISB application, I applied for the PGP core program, more than 2 years work experience. So like I mentioned in my essay that I want to go into M&A, evolve myself as a holistic M&A consultant, developing my M&A tax exposure. But like when I had a word with few of the alums and the current students, they said in interview, don't go blanketly that you just want to go into M&A consulting, that may backfire. So like what's your take, and like is it okay if I now in my interview say that I want to go into consulting umbrella, and given my work ex I may be interested in the consulting M&A consulting part.
Sure. So it's okay to say that you still want to do M&A, okay?
Okay.
But always once again mention, because one of the first counter questions that you would have is you are already working in M&A. Why do you want to pursue an MBA? Pay whatever amount of money that you would be paying, get rid of the salary for 2 years, give 2 years of your lifetime, and then pursue the same thing, right?
Correct.
Okay, you would easily be at that position which you are actually eyeing towards after your MBA. Okay, so it's one of the first counter questions that you would be receiving when you say something like this. But this is not the entire answer that you'd be saying. So you can say that you want to do M&A after this as well. But the very reason of pursuing an MBA was that you want to like try to explore other fields as well. Okay, so this is something that I don't want to run away from. If I do not find something during my MBA that actually interests me, this is something that I can always come back to, because I have done this. I'm good at it. I can always come back to this, right? I already have a developed skill set. Okay, I have credible work ex to show. Okay, at one of the biggest firms, it's a big four, Deloitte, right?
Yes.
You can always show credible work ex. But then again, I'm here to explore. Maybe I find something else. Okay, because a lot of people go with very close mindset. Okay, they have certain things in mind that they want to pursue, and they do not actually explore, which is something that even the professors have been complaining about in all the major MBA colleges, because based on their profiles, they listen to a lot of people that have already pursued MBA, and they have a preconceived notion, I would say, that, oh, freshers are meant to go into marketing, or commerce, or people or CAs are meant to go into finance. which is not true. Okay, once you step into the MBA college, you would see all kinds of people in going into all kinds of profiles and companies. Okay, so do not be very, I would say, narrow while presenting your answer. So the kind of point of view, the kind of mindset that you present before them, it should be very broad, that you are open to exploring, and even what you have done might have been very niche. It might have been niche, but you are open to exploring.
Got it. So if they ask like why your application, like you said M&A consulting and you are saying now consulting. So like, I don't know, like if they ask me like why reading the application, will they? Because I submitted why MBA essay, right?
It's completely fine. Okay, you have written it, you had a certain thought process, you justify on that. Okay, but there are few things that you can always add on top of that. So these written submissions, okay, even if I remember correctly, so FMS has an SOP section that you have to submit during the form. Okay, and so it
I
has
am,
a,
yeah.
okay, so only 100 words, and several other colleges as well. Okay, so you have a word limit, you have a certain thought process while writing that, but this is the very reason that you have interviews as well, where you properly justify and you present any counterpoints or any adjacent or adjoining points as well. Okay,
Okay,
which you might have.
got it, got it.
It's
Yeah.
very, it's, you do not have to worry about that, that you have written it in a certain perspective and you have to completely rely on that and it was all a mistake. No.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Good.
Hello, sir.
Next.
Hello.
Who is it?
Okay.
Hello.
Oh, Mayank. Right. Please go ahead.
Sir, actually, I needed to know this that I have a work ex in sales and marketing, but
Mhm.
when they'll be asking me what are you targeting as a specialization, I'll be doing in finance.
Okay.
To defend that?
It's okay. You can defend anything at all. Okay, like I said, you should have a reason. Okay, so you can say that you wanted to do some this sales and marketing because you were interested in this. It sounded nice. You wanted to explore. You did that for 2 years. You gained credible knowledge. You gained credible skills from that. Obviously, you could use the same in any other field as well. Okay, so you try to find intersections between the two circles of the Venn diagram of sales and marketing and finance and try to find whatever common skills that you can and whatever you can capitalize from this to this. Okay, and then you can add on top of that that now I want to shift gears. I've already explored sales and marketing for 2 years now, and now I want to do something else. It's perfectly fine. Okay, so it's not like you can figure out everything at the age of 18, right? You keep
Yes.
re-exploring and re-evaluating your whatever your priorities are and whatever you want to do. Okay.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
So next,
Hello.
Parth.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
please.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
Sir, I had a doubt regarding my specialization. So when it comes to PI, they might ask you what kind of specialization I want to go into.
Sure.
So I don't have clarity about it right now. So how do I tackle questions regarding the same?
First of all, no college would ask you to pick up a specialization in the first semester or the first trimester. Okay.
Okay.
So say so you can obviously say that you do not have a particular feel in mind. You are here to learn all about business. Okay. You are not here to learn a single, uh, about a single domain of business, be it sales, marketing, be it finance, be it product, anything at all. Okay. You can list those things. So you are here to gain a holistic point of view, okay, which is exactly why you worked hard to get at one of the top B schools. And then while interacting with my fellow batchmates or with alums, or while start taking those classes from all those accomplished professors, you would understand that this is where my interest lies. Okay, so you would have a lot of activities as soon as you step into your B school, all kinds of extracurriculars, co-curriculars, your actual curriculum as well. Okay, from the college, and you try to figure out what you actually want to go ahead with after a few months into the college. So you can just go and say that, because I said that as well. I did not have a specialization in mind. And more often than not, colleges do not specify anything as well. So there are a few programs such as, so Koikod has PGPF, right, for finance. Excel and Indore have HR, So there are a few specialized courses that these colleges have, but you do not really have to be worried until and unless you are interviewing for a particular specialization. If you are being interviewed for PGP or MBA, the normal ones, the general MBA, you do not have to worry about answering key, I already have this in mind. No, you're going there to explore. Okay, you have 2 years to do that. A few months into the college, you would figure that out for yourself.
Okay,
Next,
thank you.
Varsha, right? Please go ahead. No, Harshit Pant, you have also raised your hand if you want to ask.
Yes, sir. So first of all, sir, I have done my BBA, and then after BBA, sir, I joined my father's business. I've been working in it relentlessly since college.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So now this was my first CAT attempt. Right. So, sir, and I failed at my CFA level one examination in May. So should I need to mention it? Now I'm asking this question that because the interviewer might ask me why did I wait for one more year before attempting the CAT? So,
One more year, as in one more year after what?
so first of all, in 2022, I could have given in my final year. In
Because that was
2020,
your final year, right? You
yes,
graduated 23, I assume, right?
yes, 23. And 20, I could have given it in 23. So it might be a question. No.
See, again, these are very easy questions, I might say, because once again, you did not want to do an MBA. It's perfectly all right to figure things out. I mean, slightly later than everyone else, right? Not everyone wanted to do an MBA in the final year of their whatever engineering or BBA,
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir.
You can simply go ahead and say, okay, these were my reasons to pursue no corporate job, but my own father's business or my family business that I wanted to do. You pursued that for an year and then you started preparing alongside for an MBA. Okay. Or you can also say that a corporate job might have certain expectations. There are a lot of expectations when you're working for someone else. Okay. Now, working for your own business, you can, I mean, prioritize your own whatever things that you have in mind, be it business, be it learning, or be it your exams. Okay. But when you're working for someone else, you do not have a lot of say while trying to prioritize. So you might have to work for 12, 14 hours, and that might not be sustainable in the long run while preparing for an exam. So those could be a reason for trying to justify. And then obviously there stands the primary reason that you did not want to do an MBA earlier on.
Okay, sir. So what about the failed attempt at CFA? Should I need to mention it?
Don't mention it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Sonali, yeah, please.
Hi, sir. Hope you are doing good. So,
Yeah.
actually, sir, I had on 3 years of work experience in product design and visual design, and then I kind of got laid off by the company. And after that, I was looking for a job, but was not able to get a full time for a long time. And in the meantime, I've started doing few freelancing work, but didn't have a full time job. And that's when I thought of like giving CAT, and
Sure.
this whole process
So
started.
when were you?
So the gap, yeah, so the gap is kind of a year now.
Okay,
So how should I justify this?
when were you laid off?
It was in 23 around November.
That's fine. Again, once again, you did not have a say in that. You did not voluntarily leave your job. Okay, a lot of people were losing jobs at that point of time. And the very reason of your company firing you was the market conditions were not right. Everyone knew that there were certain macroeconomic factors at play that were governing a lot of things at that point of time. Okay, so you can simply go ahead and say that, okay, I tried to get a new job as soon as I was fired because that was a sudden thing that came before me. I did not know it beforehand. Okay, so since it was a sudden thing, I tried to recalibrate whatever I was doing and try to find few new opportunities. But when I finally understood after a couple of months of finding a new job that again, I was not able to, or there were not many opportunities right now in whatever you were trying to do or whatever you had been doing for 3 years, if I remember correctly. And which is why you again thought of shifting those gears and pursuing an MBA. Okay.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
Right. Next, anyone else? See, based on your profile, if you have any questions, I mean, I have reviewed a lot of profiles in the previous years as well. Okay. I have taken like 100 plus interviews. So I have seen a lot of profiles. If you actually want those, I don't think we have a lot of time. We are already over time. Okay. That was assigned to us. So you can have like those review sessions for your profile. I think there is a proper way of doing that. So we can do that. And if you have like smaller, very particular questions, you can ask. You can ask right now. Nishal, please.
Hi, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Sir, actually, I have three work experiences after college. The
Okay.
last one is in a bank
Okay.
where I transitioned from a real estate industry to a bank.
Mm-hmm.
And then during the interview, so the way I joined the bank is through a consultancy who gave me a different JD. I joined the
Mm.
bank, worked there for the first month, found the role to be totally different,
Mm.
promises to be totally different, and then I had no idea. I thought it's very early to leave the job in 1 month.
Mm.
So worked there for 2 more months, and then I tried asking them if I could do a, you know, department switch or something. They were not open to it. They were not open to a lot of things. So I was looking at the timeline, 4 months cat. So I thought,
Mm.
okay, we'll. I spoke to a few people there. They said it won't be a big deal. You can always leave the job. It's not a big deal. You're still in your training. And
Right.
then I left the job. I said them no. There are a lot of discrepancies right from the interview till today,
Mm.
and I didn't want to leave it in the first month, so I left the job, and all that has happened once after coming out. This is the first big organization that I worked in. The
Mm.
earlier ones were all not that big of they were all private companies, small companies, and
Mm.
all that. So the thing is, I have a joining letter and all that, but I do not have a relieving letter or all that sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
I am actually in talks with the HRs, but the process is taking longer than
I
usual.
understand. So I assume your actual question is if at all you should be talking about this, if you should be
Exactly.
this,
Because I did not enter these
you do
details
not
in
have
the
a relieving letter.
application. Yeah.
Right. I assume you have the pay slips.
Actually, no. I did not take it from the.
So I assume it would be better to just not mention it at all
Okay.
because see, things are okay when you reach to the interview. Okay, you can
Okay.
explain everything, you can have reasoning for everything, but that would happen if you at all reach to the interview. Okay, so there are certain steps before the interview as well. So let's suppose you are being interviewed at Mangalore, you would have to submit all those proofs for WorkX before being interviewed. Okay. If at all there is a discrepancy or there are some errors, you would not be interviewed and you would be disqualified. Okay. So
All right.
you might wait for the chance to explain all of those things, but you would not be able to because you were rejected even before being interviewed. Okay, so it's not okay, I would say, to take those risks. Okay,
Okay.
once you reach that college, you might mention that to your placement cell and everyone and try to get into an agreement where you could maybe there's not a lot of chance that you could mention it even after that, but maybe if you arrive at a conclusion where you could mention it, that's fine. But for now, I would not suggest
E-
to mention it
Even
at
in
all.
my resume, I should not mention it right now, is
No,
it?
no, no,
Okay. Okay.
please
Because the
don't.
only problem that arises here is
Hmm.
they've created this the employee provident fund thing.
Right.
So that is the issue that is majorly there.
So you are registered on the EPFO portal from
Yes,
this.
EPFO portal.
You are
But I'm
registered in the new under the new organization. Am I right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't think then it should be a problem, but once again, you are only asked about the pay slips, right? You're not
Yes.
allowed to present all those proofs that you can clearly see on the EPFO portal that you have a new organization listed from this month and this year until this month and this year, right? You cannot present those arguments until and unless you reach to the interview steps. If at all you can try talking to the colleges that you have received or that you will receive a call from, it's fine. But in the ideal situation that would benefit you very great, very positively, I would say not to mention it.
All right. All
Okay.
right. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And if at all it gets mentioned somewhere, you can always say about the culture and everything that you were lied to. Again, be very honest about it as to
Okay.
why you left or why you want to leave, whatever your reasons are. Okay. And whatever your situations are, be very honest and truthful about it. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Next,
sir.
I'll pick a few questions from the chat as well. Okay. There are a few people who have put a few questions there. Um, Is there any chance of argument? Yes, obviously, there will always be arguments, both in GDs and interviews as well. Try to avoid arguments when you're being interviewed, okay? Because the professor is also a person, he or she might take it on their egos, and you might lose out on that chance. So it's always okay to shut up just to get into a good college, and then you can do whatever you want. Um, what to do when I don't know much about and no idea about the topic? I've already answered this. Prashant Yadav, I'm sorry, what's a hygiene factor? Those are just points to be kept in mind. The hygiene factor or sanitation check is just a fancy word. Those are just pointers that you need to keep in mind. Okay. Sir, how broad conclusion should be? Is it okay if I miss 1 or 2 points? Yes, it's okay. Sir, do we need to wear suit if it's not cold? It's always okay. So this is a very important thing. It's very, advisable. Okay. It's very desirable as well to wear suits. Okay. Women can talk to mentors from iQuanta if they want something very particular, some very particular suggestions. But I can tell about the guys in general or people in general. Try to wear suits. Okay. And in an offline manner, even the way that you carry your suits while walking, you should have at least one button closed. While you're sitting, you should have both the buttons open so that it does not climb to your chins. Okay. And you can have a proper posture. Your hands are free to move about in a suit. Okay. So those are the few things that are to be kept in mind so that it does not look very weird when you're talking and the professor is paying more attention on your demeanor than your answers. Okay. Sir, what sentences can be used when we don't know the answer to the question asked? Try to be vague. Okay. First of all, either ask for a minute to actually think about it. If you still do not know, try for clarification. By the time the professor gives a clarification, you might pick on something to answer on. Okay. But if you do not have an answer, you can just say very truthfully, okay, do not try to be very vague. You can be generalistic, but not vague. I chose the wrong term earlier, but you can be generalistic in your response. Okay, very, very cliched, I would say, but don't be vague in whatever you're saying. I have prior internship experiences. Sorry, yaar, itna bada message. And I'm currently pursuing a full-time internship. No. I mean, in the interview, you can discuss internships, but it's not okay to just mention it anywhere else. Okay, you can always talk about any experience that you have, even if it was like a part-time stint or a personal project. You can talk about anything at all if you are able to justify that. Okay. Yeah, all those certifications, awards, you can discuss on anything. Everything is always helpful. They just need talking points. Apologies, sir, it's my fault. We don't have idea about anything. Can you please tell me how I can start preparation? See, the best way of preparation, Shrutika Khair, is you take all those mock interviews that iQuanta is providing, because I think you should take a couple of interviews in the initial months, even before any of your actual interviews are scheduled. And so that you would actually gauge your own performance, because based on the feedback that you get from the interviewer and based on the feedback that you have for your own self, you would be able to gauge as to these are the points that you need to work more upon, or these are the points that you're already good at and you just need some polishing. Anything else? That's all the messages from the chats. Anything else?
Sir, good evening.
Yeah, Prashant, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, sir, I graduated this year, and I don't have any extracurricular, neither I don't have any significant tangible achievements to talk about. So, sir, should I play everything on my theoretical knowledge, or should I make two, three good stories from small instances that have happened to me during these 2, 3 years of my graduation?
Once again,
Like, what would I do?
that is always advisable that you have such instances ready so that you do not have to pick things and you do not sound like you're trying to recall something that you've already learned. Okay, even when you are picking things from instances that you already have, okay, even if it's answers like strengths or weaknesses, you obviously must have prepared कि हाँ ये 3-4 weaknesses हैं, ये 3-4 strengths हैं, these are the ones that I would be picking up and saying in the answers. So
Yes, sir.
it should not look like that you're recalling from something that you've already learned. Okay. So speak in a very normal and in a very natural manner. And answering to your question in very particular, yes, it's always better to have to speak in instances from your life. Okay, taking examples or instances from your own life.
Okay, sir. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Anyone else at all? If not, I think we can end. Right. Hi, Deepak. Are you still in the call? Right. Thank you, guys. If you have any particular questions, you can book those sessions, those profile review sessions, or you could book mock PIs as well. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.